Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk from 2017. So yes, back again here, yet another Nolan review, and here it is, 4K. Yes indeed, here we are. Finally with this film, it's been a while of course, I've kind of waited, getting around to this, and yeah, here we are finally. Of course, just recently uploaded Memento as well, and I do have a Dark Knight Rises, review coming, if anyone's interested at all in that, but yes, Dunkirk, really interested to see this film. Not a film that I was really hyped for, I must say. I think I didn't think I would love this film at all, really. I'd heard some things. It is a divisive film. There's a lot of critics and stuff, and fans as well, do praise it as one of the best films of recent memory, really, and definitely among the best war films. A lot of people say. So it's very interesting to hear all this. A lot of the criticism came from characters, in relation to that. So I was just very interested, but I thought, I don't see me kind of loving this film, just in all honesty. And yeah, it's finally getting around to this. Didn't go in thinking it's going to be, one of my favourite kind of Nolans, and didn't, kind of go in against the film or anything like this. Just thought, my predictions I'll kind of reveal, was just, I thought it'd probably be good, average, maybe a bit more than that. But yes. No spoilers on this review, so don't need to worry about that. It's not going to be a massive review, this one, and it's not. I guess I couldn't really get into too much spoilers, really. If I tried, kind of talking more about the plot and stuff. But yes, an interesting film. It's I thought it would be probably realistically, I thought it'd be good, and. Yes, my honest opinion, I respect the film, I respect Christopher Nolan, and I think it's a good film. It's not something that I love, like I predicted, although I didn't, I went in with an open mind. I thought, who knows, sometimes there's a possibility here that I could love it, I'm not going to be against that, but yeah, I liked it. I kind of struggled with this film a little bit, I must say, and I don't think it's, really for me anyway, close to the rest of Nolan's work, that I've reviewed anyway. Insomnia, I haven't seen for many years, but I did actually really enjoy that film, so I'm guessing, I think I do prefer that as well. And I've not seen Following, who knows what that'll be like, but yeah, I don't think it'll be bad, by his standards. It should be quite interesting, but this film, just at the moment, I must say, this is my least favourite Nolan film, but I do think it's got some greatness in there, and it's definitely, it's a film that at times, it's got some stunning, action scenes. Of course, I respect everything that went into the film, and stuff. In terms of the way this film was shot, and just the overall, the way it's just, truly authentic, and everything like this, and just the acting and stuff. From quite a few characters here, from quite a few actors here, I think it's definitely commendable. And Hans Zimmer, that's one of the things that really, at times, especially towards the end of the film, was quite stunning, I must say. But yes, as I'm not going to get too much into the plot, I think most people are aware of this, kind of the Dunkirk evacuation, 1940 in France, of course, north of France, World War II here, and yes, this mission, this evacuation, involving civilians as well as actual troops. So very interesting this, and stuff. And Mark Rylance's character, and that kind of thread is one such example of actual just general people coming in to kind of aid the troops and kind of rescue them. So it's very interesting how he does this, and it is it's kind of oddly separated, land, air and sea, but it kind of intertwines, obviously, and it's got a kind of a strangely non-linear kind of way in the structure is the film. I was kind of a bit conflicted on that. I just found it a bit jarring, but just strangely jarring at times with this, especially there's about 40 minutes into the film, involving Cillian Murphy's character. I don't think he's named in the film. And there's something that happens there, and he's in a different scene, a different timeline part of the time. And I just kind of was confused at why that was kind of approached in that way, because the rest of the film kind of goes different ways, and yeah, it's an interesting narrative, not one that I think is I think it's definitely a bit problematic for me. But yes, this is, you know, it's trying to be an authentic, of course, experience, an involving, you know, experience. This, the audio, of course, and the visuals, you know, playing a big part. You know, a lot of this, you know, is kind of focused on instead of the characters, which, of course, as I've said, you know, it's been criticised for that, and you know, basically, if you've got a main protagonist in this, it's a character of Tommy, you know, and yes, played by Fionn Whitehead, and I think he's really, really good in this film. And actually, I did, you know, what I'll say is, you know, going through this, and I watched it with my brother actually, very interesting. He loved the film actually, and he, you know, he did say he had some flaws of the film, and yes, it was his least favourite Nolan film, but he loved the film. And you know, it was very interesting, of course, and I thought it was good, but again, you know, I think we agreed that the middle portion of the film is definitely the weakest part, and yes, you know, you start off, I think, with a really, really impressive and involving opening scene, you know, kind of just the whole sequence, maybe 15 minutes, you know, with Tommy, of course, just, you know, some of his men just being taken down. Such an investing, you know, kind of sequence there, the tension, the visceral feeling. And just, I think, these moments where I was involved in his character and trying to see if he would get away, of course, and just, you know, very, very tense, you know, very involving. Visual storytelling here, you know, very, very impressive. And then after the 15-minute mark, 20-minute mark, it starts kind of going off different directions, and the narrative is a problem for me. And just, I think, once we see more and more characters, you know, it just becomes clear that, you know, I'm not, you know, that invested in a lot of these characters and what's going on in their kind of arcs, you know, if there is any arcs at all to some of these characters. A lot of these, you know, even the characters that do have dialogue in the film, a lot of them are just extras, it seems, you know, and I know that I think Christopher Nolan has actually said, you know, he didn't want to focus on the characters in this, which is very interesting. And of course, I respect, you know, his own sort of way of going about things. He just wanted to show, he said, you know, basically what's happening to them. Will they get out? You know, but for me, that's one of the issues. You know, I can't quite, you know, really get fully invested, and you know, because it's cinema. It's not just, you know, kind of an event. You know, yes, fair enough. You know, it's an event that happened. Very tragic, of course. Many lives lost, but you know, when it's cinema, you can't just say, oh, it's war, so everyone's going to be invested in this, because I'm sure, as many know, there's a lot of not that great war films, you know, and stuff. But you know, this film, because I wasn't, you know, kind of enraptured in quite a lot of the characters, including Kenneth Branagh's character at all, really, and actually Mark Rylance's character, you know, his actual character there, not the kind of thread that went on there. I really liked that actually at times, but yes, because I'm not actually, you know, emotionally attached to these characters, I can't. You know, I can't get behind this as much, you know, as I thought, you know, it was possible. The opening 15 minutes did have me hooked, I think, you know, and just this character of Tommy throughout, you know, I think is actually a character I do like, and Harry Styles, you know, in this film is one of the best. You know, he is definitely a standout actually, so that's very, very good there. Would love to see more performances from him, you know, very, very good in this film actually, you know, and you know, it's kind of, there's a few really good performances in this film, and a few characters that I did get attached to, but a lot of them I didn't get attached. I did find it kind of flat, unfortunately. The dialogue, you know, and it's written, of course, and directed, once again, by Christopher Nolan. The dialogue is definitely disappointing, in my opinion. I didn't find it, you know, that engaging, especially the scenes with Kenneth Branagh, yeah, early on actually, you know, once it kind of branches off, as I've said, you know, there's a lot of dialogue here that just is not that invested at all, and I think, to sum it up, a lot of it is bland, generic, just flat, you know, and of course he was trying to do a visual piece here, but you know, I think it does focus, you know, it does present characters, it's just they're not, a lot of them, that compelling at all, and you know, just in all honesty, and I wasn't that engaged by a lot of the middle of the film, you know, really too much, but you know, in the sense of characters, there was moments here and there that kept going back to, for example, you know, the character played by Mark Rylance, you know, he's got a son, and you know, there's a friend of the son as well on the boat, part of this rescue mission, of course. And yes, a lot of this I did like. I was definitely moved by at times. And that's one of the things I liked throughout the film. Cillian Murphy, of course, is involved there, and I won't get into that. But yeah, no, it's really it's quite invested in this, and I like Cillian Murphy in the film. Tom Hardy's also in the film, but he is basically a pilot for most of the film, and yeah, not too much to talk about there. He provides what he can, but I think we'll get to the plane scenes in a minute. But yes, this kind of section of the boat here, I think that was probably some of the best parts of the film. Really, consistently throughout, I was invested, and I was definitely invested in Tommy, and of course Harry Styles. His character when he comes into it, I was definitely invested. But throughout the middle of the film, the rest of the film, and the different characters and threads, Kenneth Branagh as well, and stuff like this, I didn't find that impressive. I wasn't really connected to it. I think some of this is a bit, unfortunately, mediocre, a bit under par for my liking. And what I did love about the film is some of the opening, the ending. Surprisingly, actually, it took a while to get back to form, but the ending sort of 15 minutes as well. I think, yeah, definitely, very very impressive. Something that did stir up somewhat of emotions, within me, and I think the use of music there was quite stunning actually. And there's definitely action set pieces throughout the film, which I was definitely thrilled by, definitely. And yes, just there's one thing that really did not compel me within the action as well, and that is the scenes involving the planes. The first couple of moments, Tom Hardy, of course, being involved there. These moments are definitely, very, very investing. Kind of on edge and very tense. But once the first couple of moments, kind of ends there. You kind of keep going back to these planes, and I must say I was very bored by this actually. The way it was presented, I think actually the shots in this film, involving the planes, and you keep seeing from the side, of course, of the plane and stuff, and from within, within the planes, I think it did get a little bit repetitive for me, quite a bit, and just wasn't that thrilling at all, unfortunately. And that's just me being honest. I respect, the kind of work that went into this, but yeah, I just think for whatever reason, it just was not, cinematically compelling for me, and this could have been so much more. I think these scenes here, the action there, I just got really, really repetitive for me, unfortunately. And but luckily, most of the rest of the film, has kind of wonderful action at times, and just stuff that is really quite harrowing. Although it doesn't kind of it's very, very interesting, this film. It does not go too dark in the sense of you don't see too much. It doesn't show a lot of graphic kind of detail here, but it's more suggested. I think it's definitely it's interesting what he does in this film with the kind of the action scenes and the kind of the violence, perhaps. Very interesting, at times. And yes, I think the way the film is shot, of course, at times is quite stunning, and the action. In that sense, the action is wonderfully shot in quite a lot of instances in the film. There is some issues I do have with the cinematography, at times, so the kind of the overall colour palette throughout most of the film is just a bit too dull for me. Unfortunately, it's a bit too, it's just a bit flat for my liking, and yes, there is just some washed out kind of moments that I wasn't really responding to too well, and it just wasn't. I think if I was asked, what I think of it compared to the rest of Nolan's work visually, I think definitely my least favourite personally. But I do think there's a lot of greatness within the visuals, and of course the score by Hans Zimmer. That's something that really holds the film together. Something that allows it to flow, and of course the way it's used in the action. Weirdly at times a bit too much, I think. Overall, it's a bit too loud at times, this, and also kind of limits the actual my ability to hear a lot of the dialogue at times. But a lot of the times it's used wonderfully in the action. Other times too much, a bit too much there. But yes, the action, as I say, throughout most of the film is pretty stunning. There's always something going on here in that sense, and that's why I think it's a good film. It's not kind of average or mediocre kind of thing. Although I do think some of the film is personally. I do think the action and there's a couple of threads, of course, here and there that I am throughout the film invested in, emotionally, and just I think there is a humanity to this, and kind of an attachment and affection I can have for this and get connected to this, and then I can be moved, when things do happen. But a lot of the film is just showing us, kind of, I feel generic, just a generic portrayal, really. I feel weirdly, just kind of, it is bland at times in its storytelling. I feel the characterization is just, I just don't connect to this a lot throughout, throughout the film. Certain characters, certain groups of people, perhaps they're just there, kind of saying things. At times, not really saying too much, but when they do, at times it's just very throwaway dialogue. It's a very, very interesting film. It's kind of, the approach is very unique, but unfortunately I just do find some of this film generic and bland, and unfortunately a bit boring, just in the sense it is flat dramatically, and it's fine to say it's a war film, it's recreating this an authentic experience, but I'm reviewing this is a film, this is a piece of cinema, and in that sense, I do think it is flat at times, and I have to be emotionally attached, I have to be invested, I have to to actually feel things for these characters. They may be soldiers, but this it's all well and good saying that, but this is a film, and there's been bad war films that I've seen as well, and this isn't one of them, but it's not a one that kind of is kind of one of the best, I don't feel personally, although I can understand the appeal of this film. It's not, again, it won't be for everyone, that's for sure. I did like the film. I think there's certain things that I really, really, really liked, and that's why I think it's a good film, and not lesser than that. But I don't think it is a great film. It's definitely hindered by the characters. A lot of the characters, the way the film moves. It's very, it's very, very meandering. I feel. The narrative is definitely not that strong in my opinion. It's more, kind of these moments throughout the film, these kind of flourishes, these kind of threads here and there. Maybe great scenes, perhaps. A couple of really good performances and moments. Within the score, the really rousing moments here, and just the ending sequence actually is quite stunning in some ways. I must say, but I do think it's good and not kind of great, and like rest of Nolan's work really. But yes, overall I think I'd have to give this film a 70%. I enjoyed it. I think it's I did struggle with this film, I must say. After the kind of first 20 minutes, as I've said, it did kind of become a bit meandering, a bit repetitive, and very, very just very flat at times. In a couple of moments, the Kenneth Branagh stuff for me doesn't really work too well, and I can see what they were going for here. And Christopher Nolan, I really respect what he was doing with the film, but some of the film is just not, in terms of cinema, not that compelling for me. And that's not to say, that of course many people love this film, and that is great. And I can understand how. Just for me personally, it's not a great Nolan film. It's not a great war film, and that's just my opinion. This is my review. Of course, give my own personal thoughts on the film. Of course, if you've not seen any of my other Nolan reviews, while watching this, I do love Christopher Nolan. I think he's one of the best filmmakers just in general. As the rest of my reviews, basically all of them have been masterpieces that I've given the score, of course. This is the one that I didn't think I would love. I went in with an open mind, and I thought, yeah, it's kind of what I expected, a good film, and definitely one that's problematic, one that I didn't, I wasn't fully invested in. I did struggle with at times, just in the way that the kind of the ways that the story was told, the narrative, the investment within a lot of the characters here, and certain moments that just, even within the action, I think with the planes, that just is a no-go for me, really. The stuff there, I think most of that, unfortunately, is quite unengaging, unfortunately. It kind of just feels like yeah, it's just I think it's quite generic and repetitive. The shots as well, you know, within this different shots and angles, just just not that compelling. Although of course when one of the pilots lands, of course, in the sea, you've got of course some of the main characters coming to rescue him, and he's kind of trying to get the break the glass. You know, that is a really really good moment, really investing. It's just the stuff, you know, in the air basically. It's just really not for me in this film. Nothing against, you know, planes and stuff in cinema, but you know, really, just on this particular occasion, I think it could have been more compelling for me. But yes, that's my thoughts on Dunkirk. I think it's a good film. You know, it's a very interesting war film. It's a one that you know, I think Christopher Nolan puts a lot into. You know, the team behind this, you know, they really created something that can be called an experience, whether you don't like the film, you know, or you love the film, or you kind of in between, or you kind of just like it like I do. I think, you know, it is an experience. There's no denying that, and you know, one that is, you know, kind of wonderful in many ways. You know, in terms of the visuals, you know, the action pieces, you know, the way in which you know, it does present some moving moments. You know, perhaps within that boat kind of thread there, and you know, Michael Rylance, his character, you know, kind of thread there. Although I didn't really, you know, care for his character, I think, you know, what went on within that boat, you know, was really, really very compelling actually at times. And yes, I liked this film. I didn't love it. You know, it's not. I'm not bashing on the film or anything like that. I think it's very commendable. I think hats off, of course, to Christopher Nolan. Once again, you know, definitely just doing something unique at times, and you know, even though I do think it's kind of generic and bland in quite a lot of areas, you know, I think the action and the kind of the way in which he kind of the score is used, and what he's doing with the actual the sound design, even, I think actually is very very authentic and just unique. I feel it's just, you know, in terms of the characters, in terms of the narrative, and just the structure, I think it could definitely have been a lot better for my liking. But that's just me. You know, I think I do love the other Nolan films that I've reviewed, but this was just a, you know, kind of a one-off that I didn't think I'd love, and I don't love, but I do definitely commend the film. You know, the effort that went into this, and the passion, of course, to kind of bring this, and what it's saying, of course, you know, I think you know, what it's kind of portraying is very very commendable. It's just not a film I feel, you know, kind of too strongly for, really. But yeah, I think a good film that I recommend if you've not seen it, of course. And if you have seen the film, of course, tell me your thoughts in the comments. Again, you know, I respect everyone's opinions on this. I just don't love this film. I'm not kind of you know, against it either. I don't think it's a bad film. No. Just one that, you know, is very problematic, very flat at times for me. I did struggle at times, I must say, especially in the middle of the film, to kind of stay in this, you know, kind of experience and attached to this film. Very little character development at all, and very little overall, you know, in the grand scheme of things, kind of interesting characters presented. And you know, when you don't present characters and you're focusing on other things, great if you do it well. But this does present a lot of people, a lot of characters, and they are kind of, unfortunately at times, you know, just kind of there. And they do just kind of appear as extras, and only extras. But yes, a good film, and definitely recommend it, of course. You know, impressive, very very impressive at times, and yes, hats off once again to Christopher Nolan. You know, a film I liked, and yes, thanks for watching my review.